That's him spray painting the side of a mosque.
Row of Life, Tuesday 9:30.
Accuser of their father, the devil.
I'm whiter than Hitler. But basically one night I masturbated in your bed.
The series that will send you to hell on a double DVD collector's edition. Over an hour and a half of bonus footage, the uncensored Rove Fatwa story, and a Bible full of bonus exorcism scenes. John Safran versus God, the double DVD, out now.
You're walking flypaper for demons.
Welcome to Speaking in Tongues, John. What is on the menu tonight?
Are you ever going to hit on me for cash?
Yes, immediately. How much you got?
No, I'm serious. Like, just say I take it to the next level. Like, I write some film script and then it becomes apparent that I'm like, you know... Yeah, like affluent. I'm like Steve Izard or I'm like Russell Crowe or whatever. Are we going to have some awkward conversation where you're sort of going to hit on me for sort of like... No. It won't happen?
I never do it. Because I'm a beggar, but I'm no good at it.
Do you bring it up if there's like you're somewhere like at a function? Like just say
no, don't bring it.
Don't give me this thing about how you don't hit on rich people. I went to that open family event at the MCG, and it's all like there's no one rich there. There was the guy from Crown Casino.
Their ties undone, for God's sake.
The guy from Crown Casino was sitting next to me.
He wasn't rich. He's only the man who manages the security and carts out the bodies. I'm not doing any good in fundraising. That's one of the reasons why I had hope, by being associated with you, the bleeding heart of Australia.
Bob, I can't quite remember this because you told me this. You told me this ages ago.
You're not doing well with this, but go on, pursue it if you have to.
You told me this ages ago, and I can't quite remember the exact details.
So you want me to fill in the evidence?
Fill in the evidence.
Oh yes, righto.
You once told me you were going to this old woman's house because she was like in her, dying days or whatever. Yeah. You're there to counsel her and stuff like that.
Been doing it for 40 years.
And I was like, oh, that's pretty good. Like you personalise it like that, and then you drop to me that she's pretty wealthy, and it's going to be quite helpful for the church if she kicks in a big donation.
Did I take the pillow with me?
No,
I didn't. I did not take a pillow to that woman. Like most of the other stuff that you cough up on this show, that is completely a fable.
Can you give me some rule of how much I'm meant to give proportionately?
10%.
10%?
That's what I'm saying to the rich. Riots, whatever trouble they think they're having with the poor or the underprivileged, mainly it's those who are under-resourced. So if a man builds $1 million house, he should give us 100,000... What's 10% of $1 million?
I think
10,000, isn't it?
100.
Can we have a calculator, please?
I've got one on my phone. We'll dub it in.
I think it's 10, whatever that is.
Just move your lips and we'll be able to dub in later. We'll be able to dub in later the right amount. That's good.
In other words, he builds a house for $1 million. I want 10% so that I can do something for the poor who live around the bottom of his tower.
Have you ever had like...
That's the solution to violence in the suburbs.
Have you ever had an awkward situation with money, like someone owes you money, you owe someone else money?
Credit.
Oh, you owe the other people
credit.
money?
Oh, yes. Yeah, people owe me money, forget about it, I'm not interested, they can have it.
Yeah.
I'm not interested.
I'll keep that in mind when I'm going through your bag later.
How are you going today? You all right today for your lunch?
Yeah, I'm okay for my lunch.
Because I've got a couple of bob here. But, no, I need a line of credit. It's either that or I've got to accumulate wealth to help the poor.
I'm always like being too generous on very little levels. Like I'm never like buying people cars or anything.
No.
But on very small levels, I'm always being too generous because I'm aware of the stereotype that like Jews are tight.
Shh, don't say that. See, I mean, that's a terrible thing to say.
So I'm always like, I'll buy the coffees and stuff because I'm really, really aware. I don't, like that's the one stereotype about
You're
Jews.
going to be the great antidote.
I also walk around trying to make my nose look smaller.
Yeah.
But that's
well, you will in a minute because you get a punch in the nose.
Father Bob, Cronulla, race riots.
Yes.
Everyone has been giving their opinion. I thought we'd bring in a scientist, Gerard Turulli, to see if science can shed some light on what went down in Cronulla. Thanks for joining us, Gerard.
No problem, John.
Now, are races genetically different?
In some ways they are. I mean, for genes associated with hair colour, skin colour and eye colour, there are obvious differences between races. But when you look at the genome, which is the entire genetic sequence as a whole, there are actually greater proportions of difference in different genes within one population, within one race, than there are differences between races. And that's through, thousands of years of evolution and the mixing of genes.
So what about when we watch TV and we get the impression that blacks are better at basketball, or we look at the BRW rich list and see a disproportionate amount of Jews? Is that like 100% cultural and got nothing to do with genetics?
No, genetics are obviously playing a certain role in here, in that sort of issue, but it's difficult to differentiate the proportion that is related to nature, i.e. the genetics, and nurture, which is the social environment and the cultural influences. In every instance, it's always going to be a mixture of both. In the case that you gave about the black Americans that are very good at basketball and jumping very high, there is certainly a genetic component there in the physiology and anatomy of their legs and their ability to maintain their high level of sport. But in other aspects, such as intelligence and the propensity towards a successful career, that will tend to be more related to a cultural upbringing and the environment, which is nurture.
So Lebanese Australians, Anglo-Australians, do we have like this genetic need to feel like we're in a tribe?
If you look throughout the whole animal kingdom, there's a high proportion of resistance to mixing with different races, different cultures, different species, and that's important for the survival of the species. But humans are the same species. It's not even the same thing as different breeds of dogs. We share 99.99 and several other decimal points similarity between our genetic code, and so that small proportion of difference really comes down to incidences of physical appearance, which allow us to define one race from another. But when you look more closely, the differences aren't there on a genetic level. And
are we biologically wired to be racist?
We are biologically wired to be sceptical of different kinds, because as particularly the male gender, because we're talking about having different levels of passing on your genes to the next generation. So there is some benefit to resisting assimilation with other cultures. But the very interesting point, and the point I always make to people such as Aryan supremacists and people who believe in a pure genetic breed, is that from everything we understand about genetics, it's variability that makes us stronger. So by inbreeding, you have higher incidences of things such as Tay-Sachs disease. So that always makes me laugh about the sort of mentality of inbreeding. We all have stories about, a relative of ours who married a cousin and, the kind of two-headed baby mentality that comes out of that. There is an element of truth to that. So to make the human species stronger, and to give us a better chance of surviving into other millenniums and a million years from now, we need to outbreed. That's the key. And do scientists, do they ever self-censor because they're worried about the political implications of their work? Like they'll do some research and test results will come back saying, well, blacks score lower on IQ tests and we won't put that out there because it's just too heated. Well, scientists are trained not to censor their work and to really present the results of their studies and interpret what the results are saying without incorporating any of their own emotions or their own judgments into the results. However, unfortunately, because of the nature of the world these days, scientists are struggling ever more for funding, and therefore I would imagine that if there was a serious issue that could affect their chances for funding, that a scientist may be inclined to censor their work, or if there is the potential for receiving more funding from their results, even if it is politically inflammatory, that they will go ahead and publish those results. Well, unless one of you is going to start saying something offensive and racist, I'm going to have to wrap it up. So I'm not interested in this. So tell us both to get off the show. Can you thank our guest? Yeah, thank you very much, Gerard, for your, as usual, insightful. Thank you. Still on Cronulla, Father Bob Maguire. Yeah, very important, mate. Everyone has their theory on how we can increase the peace and prevent something like Cronulla happening again. We have with us Professor Andrew Fraser from Macquarie University. His solution? Introduce a White Australia policy. Thanks for joining us, Professor. Thank you. I'm confused about a White Australia policy about who would be in and who would be out. For example, are Italians and Greeks, are they
Are they a superior European culture that should be allowed in, or are they Dagos who should not be allowed in?
Well, it's not really about superiority or inferiority. I think it's really about cultural compatibility. I mean,
and would Italians and Greeks be culturally compatible?
Well, I mean, presumably there were in the 1940s and 50s there were people who had difficulty accepting the arrival of large numbers of people from Southern and Eastern Europe.
This isn't an irrelevant question. I was looking on the Stormfront website, which is a white supremacist website, last night, and they were talking about Cronulla, and there was a little bit of an argument going on about, like, there were Croats there at the rally, and some of the Australians thought they were wogs and should be, beaten up, and of course others were standing up for them, saying no, Croats are fine, and even Greeks are fine.
What's the basis of your thought, that we should only hang around with those who are like us? Because we had Dr. Taruli here before who said that it was better for us to interbreed and be different.
Well,
See?
I think the basic problem is this. We have a choice. We can be either a free Western society or a multiracial society, but we can't be both. To be a multiracial society is to demand an ever more powerful state to prevent very different ethnic and racial groups from fighting.
As in Singapore. In Singapore.
Yes.
But aren't mixed race people better looking?
I don't believe so.
That's a safran question. Don't be put off.
No. I honestly think mixed race people are better looking. If you look at, like, those United colours and Benetton kind of things,
But all I would say is look at the Miss Universe candidates from Latin America. You'll be surprised at how many of them look as if they came from Scandinavia.
Oh yeah.
Back to the serious matter.
Isn't your North American accent as jarring in the context of Australia as, someone with an Asian face?
Well, in the context of which Australia? In the context of the Australia I operate in, the academic, middle-class, an Ocker accent would be even more jarring.
Yes.
And I guess broadening out that question, you're an immigrant. You came here in 1971. Yep. Why are you allowed in and not all these other people?
Because you'd have to ask the government why they let me in, I guess. But
how does the fact that Australia started as an Aboriginal country fit into all of this?
Well, I think the lesson we ought to take from the Aboriginal experience is don't allow yourself to be dispossessed by alien colonists. And Australia is becoming a colony of the third world, and I think that is a shame.
Because globalisation has made it one village.
Tell that to the Japanese. The Japanese want to preserve Japan for the Japanese, and I think they are wise and perfectly entitled to do so.
But they're going to have to learn to think globally and act locally.
Did you see Lost in Translation?
No.
Great movie, which shows that the virtues of having a low immigration policy, which produces technological innovation. Instead of having maids come into your hotel room in the morning to open the curtains, you have this little sensor that senses when you're getting out of bed and zap, and it's quite. So there are ways of.
But this is a little machine. We're looking to the stage where we're going to be part human and part machine.
I don't think I am.
If we can move off this RoboCop kind of subplot. In the short term, what should be done to stop things like Cronulla happening again?
Well, one possibility that's being seriously discussed over in the States now among immigration restrictionists, and indeed in France, is the possibility of basically buying out some of the least assimilable immigrant groups. In other words, offer Muslims who don't seem to be making a go of it here $50,000 a head to go back home.
So you honestly think a system like that can work? Like we could. Find out the families of the people who beat up the white guys on the beach, and then offer them money.
I would just say offer it to third world immigrants who've come here. Generally, give them something like $250,000 or more. Find out what it takes. go back in a little Lebanese village, $500,000 could set you up in.
Bob, you'd go to Lebanon for
Glasgow, because that's where I'd go.
Yeah.
Finally, the most important question under this White Australia policy: are Jews in or out?
Well, I think that is one of the most interesting questions of all, because, like, in effect, one of the strange things about the Jewish community is that it's in favor of a restrictionist, exclusionary immigration policy for Israel, but basically insists, by and large, there are lots of exceptions.
Jews in or out of Australia?
Let him finish.
But I would say that really, from my own personal point of view, I would dearly wish that Jews would identify with European Christian civilization. Yeah. They'd be a huge asset, but if they want to keep on subverting it and turning it into a multiracial, then, they're a problem for white Europeans. I mean,
okay, wrong answer. Wrong answer.
Father,
you wanted him to say out, didn't you? You wanted him to say they were out.
No, I wanted to say they were in. I would have got on board. It would have been fine.
Thank you very much, Andrew.
Thank you. Very interesting time. Yeah.
Bob, you were living through a more white Australia than I was. By the time I was born, it was like all Italians and Greeks and Asians.
We used to chase the Chinaman down the street when he came around on a horse and a
Was Australia
cart.
a more peaceful society when it was whiter?
Yes, it was more peaceful, but it was more boring. What we're looking for is to have a less boring Australia, which may require a certain amount of ebullience.
So you're saying to the audience out there, if you want peace, we should possibly go back to being a white Australia.
Take the risk.
Do you feel white?
I feel particularly white when I'm on this show with you.
but did what Andrew Fraser said, did that ring true? Like you
no, I don't
feel this kind
like
of white identity?
No, because we've been brought up. Look,
do you feel Scottish?
I feel.
Or do you feel Australian?
I feel universalist. Do you like that, or that Bobby Waffle?
Bobby Waffle.
Well, Catholic small c equals universalist, and I've been brought up that way. Universalism. I try to see people not with colour, but just as though they were human beings. Boring, boring.
So controversial, Father. I can't believe you're willing just to go out there and say that on national television.
Well, come on, let's get into a grotty, grimy, gory segment.
Bob, now we're going to get more on brief with the SBS Charter. Multiculturalism. Who do we have in for matchmaker this week?
John, we have Ibrahim Al-Sabahi, who is a Mandaean.
Now, what are Mandaeans?
Simply, Mandaeans are the people who believe in God and who follows the rules of God.
And you're from Iraq?
Yep, from Iraq. I was born in Iraq.
And you have aspects of Christianity, but you don't believe you're Christian?
No.
You follow John the Baptist?
I follow John the Baptist, yep.
It's old as this Mandaean religion is as old as the hills.
That's right.
And Jesus is a prophet, but he's not the Messiah.
Well, I don't know what do you mean by this world Messiah.
I know, see, that's the Jewish coming out in him. He's
I'm trying to make a distinction between Mandaeans and Christians.
Yeah, but I'll let me interpret, if you don't mind. You see, what John Safran is actually saying is your Jesus was baptised by John Baptist, and therefore you accept Jesus as being a holy bloke. But nobody's special.
Not the Son of God.
No.
The other great thing about Mandaeans, that unlike you slack Catholics, you get baptised once a week.
It's purifying you, like getting you in birth from the beginning, you know?
Yeah. But you've got to go under the water or every week? In the river or in the bath?
In the river. It should be in the living...
It should be in the river like
living,
John Baptist.
Running living water.
Now, the Mandaeans were, when they were in detention centres, they were the ones who were getting picked on by the Muslims in the detention centres.
Yeah, that's right.
And you spent time in a detention centre when you first came to Australia?
Yeah, of course. I spent about 45 days in the detention centre. Well, it was a good. Actually, they treated us good. You know, the officers, everyone was all right.
Villa Wood?
No, I was in Curtin.
Ooh, I love this. Someone who was in a detention centre talking up the detention centre. This is what we want on this show. So it was a good time, your 45 days in...
45 days, yeah. Very good.
Why did you have to leave Iraq in the first place?
I had to leave Iraq because of the terrible conditions. So that's why we came here for a free country.
And to get to the point of the segment, you have to marry another Mandaean?
Yeah.
Ibrahim,
So
we're
we're
looking
breaking
for reasons why anyone would want to ring you and email you and say, I would like to be your partner. What are you offering as a good husband? Are you a good bloke or what? Are you a jealous man? Are you working? Yeah, that kind of thing, you know what I mean? Just on national television, you can tell us, you know. Do you do anything for a living?
Yeah.
What do you do?
Well, occasionally I do work in McDonald's now.
Yeah.
But I'm planning to be an interpreter.
Yes, that's right.
Actually, I'm playing in a band.
Playing in a band too?
Yeah.
What do you play?
A Mandaean
keyboard.
band.
Mandaean band. Yeah. Manda Boys. It's called Manda Boys.
Yes.
Bob, if there's a Mandaean girl out there who wants to go out with the very attractive 20-year-old Ibrahim, what should they do?
Get in touch with us at mailbox at speakingintongues.com.au or Post Office Box 434, Prahran, Victoria 3181.
Thank you, Ibrahim.
Thank you very much. And I thank you for inviting me today to the SBS channel. Thank you very much.
John, what have we got on the billboard this week?
From Jez Detterer, God answers knee mail. So, like, you know, you're on your knees. You're on your knees.
This, am I getting too old for this? You know, I mean...
Yeah, because this is world-class comedy, so if you're not finding it funny...
But you're finding it funny because you laugh every time you read them out.
Second one,
Go on.
Kate Fury, Buddha sock in it and find Christ.
Put a sock in it and find Christ.
You know, so like, you know, reject Buddhism and go to Christianity.
Oh, go on, that's no good. Go on.
Peter Clout, our form guide's full of good tips and our owner-trainer was born in a stable.
That's Christmassy.
But, like, a bit tangled.
A bit tangled. See, maybe the first one again.
No, one more.
Oh, there's more. The number 4 might be the dark horse that comes racing from the back of the pack.
Nicholas Kittel sends in End of the World, Armageddon to church.
Number 4.
You like that one? I think she just ripped that off from Def Leppard. They did that pun like back in the early 80s with Armageddon.
Well, then people, if they know that it's Def... What?
Leopard.
The Def Leppard.
Maybe, I don't even know who's in Def Leppard. Maybe Nicholas Kittel is actually like the bass guitarist from Def Leppard.
Well, then
trying to get 2 bites of the cherry and as well as putting it out on their album, sent it into Bob's billboard.
Put it into Bob's billboard, nevertheless, because some people will say, oh, that's Def Leppard.
The winner this week, bass guitarist from Def Leppard,
Yes.
Nicholas Kittel. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jono.
Bob, where should people send their...
People should send their whatever they are to mailbox at speakingintongues.com.au or Post Office Box 434, Prahran, Victoria 3181.
Bob, time to go. You got a letter this week?
Got a letter this week, no names. Dear Father Maguire, in fact, Dear Father R. Maguire, when viewing the TV show Speaking in Tongues on SBS last Monday evening, I was somewhat surprised and disappointed to hear you make a statement/remark about priests being drunk on Saturday nights. Even if it was meant only in a jocular manner, it certainly creates a wrong impression to not only practising Catholics, but to people of other faiths. Yours sincerely.
Are you going to apologise for stereotyping
I rang the man
Catholic...
and left a note on his...
Did you really ring him?
Yeah.
Man.
I'm polite, man.
You're a polite man? What,
Well, you said call me man, I'm calling you man. Man too.
What, you think people aren't going to know? You think
Man,
the kids
you.
who are left over from South Park aren't going to notice you're a 71-year-old priest if you start using jive language?
Jive language. And next week I'm going to use hip-hop. And the week after I'm going to use gangster rap.
With an
And
A at
after
the
that
end.
I'm going to use grunge language. And then I'm going to use
going all over
clown
the shop.
rapping.
Clown rapping?
Yeah,
Oh, that's the
latest.
Yeah, the Rise,
Yes.
that documentary.
Yeah, I reckon that I'll reach the peak.
Well, Bob, say goodbye in hip-hop.
Hip hop. I don't know any hip hop. No, I must. Next week I'll do hip hop. I'll find somebody out rapping in the streets and ask them to write it for me. Good night, ladies and gentlemen, and the best of luck, John, to you over the festival season.
Thank you, Father Bob.
Thank you, John.